What happens when the person the world looks to for moral guidance finally loses their grip on reality? Imagine standing in a room where the loudest voice, the one everyone has feared to challenge for decades, is suddenly dismantled, not with a shout, but with a smile. Today, the lights of The View didn't just shine, they exposed a crumbling legacy. When Whoopi Goldberg uttered the words that shocked a nation, she thought she was untouchable. She didn't realize that Greg Gutfeld was waiting in the shadows with a mirror of truth. This isn't just a TV debate, it's the moment a cultural giant fell. If you care about the truth behind the screen, do not look away. Stay until the very end, because what Greg did next didn't just silence a room, it woke up a country. Let's dive in. The air inside the ABC studios in New York was thick, heavy with the unspoken tension of a shifting political tide. For years, The View had been a fortress of certainty. Behind those bright, colorful desks sat women who believed their opinions weren't just views, they were the law. At the center of it all was Whoopi Goldberg, a woman whose career spanned generations, now draped in the invisible armor of liberal privilege. But outside the studio, the world was changing. People were tired. They were tired of being told what to think, tired of the double standards, and tired of the intellectual, fast food, being served every morning. The spark that lit the fire was a single, bizarre statement. Whoopi, driven by a deep-seated disdain for a political rival, looked into the camera and declared that she didn't care if the sitting president pooped his pants, she would stand behind him regardless. It was meant to be a show of loyalty, but to the millions watching at home, it felt like a slap in the face. It was the ultimate admission: I don't care about the state of our leadership, as long as my side wins. Enter Greg Gutfeld. Greg didn't walk onto the stage of public discourse like a warrior, he walked in like a skeptical observer at a magic show who had just figured out the trick. While Whoopi relied on her legacy and a booming voice to command respect, Greg relied on something far more dangerous: calm, methodical ridicule. He watched the footage of Whoopi's poop-powered prose, and didn't get angry. He laughed. But it wasn't a cruel laugh, it was a laugh of disbelief. He began to pull the threads of her argument. He pointed out the intellectual bubble wrap that protected her. He reminded the world of the time she claimed the Holocaust, one of history's greatest tragedies, wasn't about race. He showed that when you stop welcoming challenges, your mind becomes a fossil. The emotional depth of this story lies in the silence of the audience. There was a moment during the broadcast where you could see it in Whoopi's eyes, the realization that her confidence was no longer a substitute for coherence. For the first time, the woman who made everything about race was being told that her own reasoning was hollow. Greg's words weren't just jabs, they were a defense of the common man's intelligence. He reframed the entire show as a ceremonial relic, a place where applause was mistaken for validation. He wasn't just destroying a person, he was destroying the idea that we should accept intestinal unfortitude as a leadership quality. By the time the segment ended, the fortress had been breached. The View wasn't so clear anymore. Whoopi remained in her chair, but the lens through which the world saw her had shifted forever. Greg Gutfeld didn't need to raise his voice to win, he just needed to point at the truth. He proved that longevity doesn't equal accuracy, and that eventually, every emperor, or in this case, every daytime host, is found to be missing their clothes. Friends, today's story reminds us of a vital lesson: never mistake a loud voice for a true one. In a world where media giants try to package our thoughts for us, your greatest weapon is your own ability to ask, why? Greg Gutfeld didn't just destroy a TV host, he gave us permission to stop being intimidated by the authorities of opinion. Truth doesn't need a teleprompter, and it doesn't need emotional padding. It stands on its own. If you believe that common sense should never be silenced, hit that like button right now. Do you think Whoopi Goldberg has finally gone too far, or is she just being authentic? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. We read every single one because your voice is what matters here. And if you want to stay updated on the stories the mainstream media is too afraid to tell, make sure to subscribe and turn on all notifications. Don't let them put your mind in bubble wrap. Stay sharp, stay curious, and we'll see you in the next video.